Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the For Ounce Fanatic channel. Today we will be reacting and breaking down last weekend's fights, UFC 321, and giving some matchups for the fighters, most of the fighters on the prelims and the main card, of course. So without further ado, let's get it going. First fight of the night, I didn't watch too much of this because it was at 3 a.m. and I woke up, but I did catch the first round. Amarim started pretty dominant. She got some top control, and then she pretty much gassed out. Mizuki dropped her, I believe, in the second or third round and won a fairly competitive decision. Bit of an upset, obviously. If you look at the odds, Amarim was a minus 425 favorite going into this fight. Overall, a good win for Mizuki. And I think her next fight should be Sam Hughes. That is Amarim's only other professional loss aside from Mizuki. And yeah, she should fight Sam Hughes. And for Amarim, I don't know, just give her fucking Stephanie Luciano or something. Moving on to the next fight of the night, we had Azat Maksum versus Mitch Raposo. Another upset on this card, two in a row. It was a fairly competitive fight. I do think Maxim won the first round. Raposo was kind of just spamming his overhand. Maxim was looking for takedowns, mostly staying on the feet though. And I believe it was the second round, or maybe it was the third round. Maxim went to Raposo, went to take Maxim down, and he grabbed the fence horribly and reversed the position. The ref took a point, and it was pretty much game over from there. Nice little upset win for Mitch Raposo. He wins by 29-28 decision, or I believe it was. Well, I'm not sure. Let's just say he won 2 rounds and Maxim got deducted a point, so whatever that scorecard was, despite the fact he won. Maxim has been cut from the promotion following his third loss in a row, so I won't be matching him up with anyone, obviously. He'll be the new PFL flyweight champion, I'm sure. And Mitch Raposo, I think he should fight Stuart Nickel. Stuart Nickel recently lost at UFC Rio to Lucas Hosha, and this is Mitch Raposo's first win in the UFC. So I think that would be a good matchup for two fairly low-level flyweights. Yeah, more of a striker versus grappler matchup. I'm not even going to talk about this fight. Both guys have actually also been released from the promotion, so there's nothing I need to say. All I got to say is chocolate Peppa Pig. Both guys have been released from the promotion, unfortunately. So yeah, there won't be any matchups on this fight. Pretty forgettable fight. And yeah, moving on to the next fight, we had Nathaniel Wood versus Jose Delgado. Now, this was a banger, probably the best fight of the prelims in terms of competitiveness. Jose Delgado started off super strong. He dropped Nathaniel Wood in the first 2 minutes of the fight, gave him a big cut over his forehead. I believe he dropped him with a spinning back fist and almost had him out with the ground and pound, but Wood was able to recover, get back to his feet. And then he ends up dropping Delgado in the same round about 2 minutes later. So I believe it was a 10-9 first round for Delgado based on the damage, despite Wood also dropping him. And then Wood kind of just took over with his cardio, his veteran savvy. I do think he won the next 2 rounds. He used some bit of grappling. Just effective striking. Let's look at the stats here. So yeah, a lot of people were saying it was a robbery just based on the stats, but if you look at the fight, Nathaniel Wood clearly won the second round, and the third round was fairly close, but I do think he won that too. A really good win for Nathaniel Wood. I don't think many people were expecting him to win this fight, despite the fact that he is on a pretty good streak. And yeah, he's not finishing anyone. This was another decision, but it was a really exciting fight. So, like DC even mentioned in the post-fight interview, you've had a lot of decisions, but this is kind of a fight that you want to be in if you're winning. It was a super competitive fight. He defeated a super hyped up prospect. And dude, they need to give Nathaniel Wood a top 15 matchup. Like, if they don't give him a ranked guy next, I don't know what the fuck they're doing. So I think Nathaniel Wood's next fight should be the winner of this weekend's main event, Steve Garcia versus David Onama. Whoever wins, they get to fight Nathaniel Wood, the last Kingsman himself. I just think either guy on that main event would be a good matchup for Nathaniel Wood. It's definitely a winnable fight for him. I do think he has better grappling than both those guys, but he also could get slept out cold. Yeah, I think Nathaniel Wood versus the winner of Steve Garcia and David Onama would be a good matchup for him. And as for Delgado, I think he should fight Ricardo Ramos, who recently lost on the Rio card to Khan Offley by submission. He's a pretty 50-50 guy. He's been in the UFC for quite a while. Does have knockout power and decent submissions. Still fairly a young guy. I think he's only 29 or 30. Yeah, I just think it would be a bit more of a step down in competition with Delgado, but still a decent test. I mean, Ramos is a bit of a veteran in the UFC anyway, so yeah, I think Jose Delgado should fight Ricardo Ramos. And as for this fight, Volta Walker, 4 straight heel hooks in a row. This guy's becoming a fucking WWE superstar. Like, once he gets to that finishing move, there's no stopping him. He gets his 4th heel hook in a row at 124 seconds of the first round against Louis Sutherland. Yeah, not much else to say, but Volta Walker, obviously he called out Hamdi Abdelwahab in his post-fight interview. One of the most hilarious post-fight interviews I've ever heard, really. Chocolate Peppa Pig. And obviously he's not getting that fight. I think it was a really, yeah, I don't even want to mention what I think about that call out. It was just a pretty terrible call out. I don't know what the fuck he was thinking. And yeah, he's not going to get that fight anyway because Hamdi whatever the fuck his name is, the Egyptian guy Hamdi, has been released from the promotion. So yeah, it's safe to say he will not be getting that fight anyway. But I do think a good matchup for Volta Walker is, he's ranked in the top 15. He's been destroying these cans outside of the top 15. I think he needs a veteran, a guy with knockout power, a guy who's been in the game for a long, long time, and a guy who said he wants to keep fighting taxi cab drivers. And that man is Derek Lewis. I think they should book a Fight Night main event, Volta Walker versus Derek Lewis, maybe, in a crowd in like Texas and in Lewis's hometown or something like that. Yeah, I just think it would be a big step up for him. I do think, obviously that fight's going to go one or two ways. Volta Walker gets slipped in the first round or he submits Derek Lewis. I do think both of those outcomes are equally as likely. So yeah, I would book Volta Walker versus the Black Beast himself. And as for Louis Sutherland, I think he should fight Brando Pericic, Australian prospect coming out of City Kickboxing. He recently got his first win in the UFC at UFC Perth, the first round knockout. Louis Sutherland, he does have good striking. He's a powerful guy. He's a big guy for 265. Yeah, I just think that would be a fairly even matchup. Louis Sutherland versus the Balkan Bear Brando Pericic. And as for this fight, Ludovic Klein versus Mateusz Hombatsky, however the fuck you say this guy's name. Yeah, it was a pretty back and forth fight. Klein landed a lot of damage in the first 2 rounds. Let's look at the stats here. Yeah, as you can see, Klein was a bit more accurate with his strikes, but Hombatsky was throwing a lot more. Let's see. Yeah, so yeah, Klein landed a bit more significant strikes, but the damage was clearly on the side of Klein. I mean, Rombatsky has been in some wars in the UFC, as we know. He had that insane fight with Oralbite, and his last fight against Chris Duncan, he also took a lot of damage. He was cut up pretty badly going into the second round, and Klein looked to be kind of, sliding away with the win. But then the start of the third round, he gets taken down and he breaks his ankle. And I didn't realize obviously a lot of people didn't realize what had happened initially. But he kind of just lay on the bottom, like getting fucking smashed with elbows and just not really getting up. And I thought he could have almost been finished, but he did just enough to survive and win a majority decision 29-28. And then I think one judge did score it a draw. I was actually expecting it to be a draw because I thought that last round was a 10-8, and one judge did agree with me, but Klein hangs on and gets a victory, survives with a broken ankle. Yeah, fight of the night. I think it was a pretty good fight. I don't think it was fight of the night in terms of competitiveness. I think it was just like, if Klein hadn't broken his ankle, it wouldn't have been the fight of the night by any means. I think he was, kind of cruising to a 30-27 victory in that one, but he just happened to injure himself. So for Ludovic Klein, obviously he's going to be out for a while with a broken ankle, but he showed a lot of grit in this fight, and I think he should fight Cauê Fernandes, who is on a 3-fight winning streak, I believe, rising up the ranks. He's got a few good wins lately. they're both pretty dynamic strikers. Yeah, I just think it'd be a banger of a matchup. Yeah, book it now, please, Dana. Ludovic Klein versus Coway Fernandez. And as for Mbatsky, I think he should fight Tom Nolan. Tom Nolan obviously lost his debut to Nicholas Mota by knockout. He's a super tall guy for lightweight. Hombetsky is super short and stocky. I just think it would be a bit of a yin and yang matchup. You know, Hombetsky, more of a striker, but he does have a really good wrestling base. And Nolan, super tall striker. I just think it would be an interesting matchup where both guys have the ability to knock each other out and get knocked out. I think that'd be a banger fight. Yeah, book it for the early prelims of a numbered card next year sometime, maybe February, March, something like that. Yeah, I'd love to see it. Mateusz Rebecki versus Tom Nolan. Yeah, Ikram Aliskerov beat Junyoung Park. I didn't actually watch this fight. So, yeah, Ikram Aliskerov seemed to win on the striking. Let's see, did he get any takedowns? Let's see. Okay, he got 5 of 7 to okay, so he won with his grappling actually, and it looks like he outstruck Junyoung Park fairly comfortably as well. Yeah, not too much to report. I don't think this was much of an exciting fight. Again, I missed this fight. So yeah, Ikram Aliskerov gets the win over Junyoung Park. And for Ikram Aliskerov, I think he should fight Edmund Shabazian. Both guys are kind of ranked just outside of the top 15, in my opinion. And they both recently KO'd Andre Muniz. Yeah, I just think it'd be a decent step up for Shabazian and not necessarily a step down for Aliskerov, but, you know, a decent matchup for him. I think it'd be an exciting fight. One guy could get knocked out in that matchup. So yeah, I've got Ikram Aliskerov versus Edmund Shabazian. I think that'd be a good fight. And for Junyoung Park, I think he should fight Azamat Bekoyev. You know, he's a veteran in the UFC. He's had a few decent wins, but he mostly loses to anyone who is ranked in the top, 20, 25. Um, and Bekoyev kind of got exposed. Well, not necessarily exposed, but he didn't have the best performance in his last fight against Yusri Balgarui. Yeah, I think he should fight Junyoung Park. They're both coming off losses, both decently well-rounded guys, both 5'10 middleweights, shorter guys for the division. Yeah, I think that would be a decent matchup for both guys. Book it as a co-main of an Apex card maybe, or the main card of an Apex card. And yeah, I think that would be a good, fairly even matchup. Junyoung Park versus Azamat Bekoyev. Main fight of the prelims, featured fight of the prelims. Quillan Salkeld scores one of the most devastating, brutal, astounding, whatever you want to call it, amazing right head kick, roundhouse kick knockout, puts Nasrat Haqparast face first onto the canvas, convulsing. Yeah, one of the scariest KOs I've seen in a long time. Yeah, I actually picked Nasrat Haqparast in this fight to win by, fairly dominant decision, being that Quillan Salkeld comes in on 10 days notice and he scores a fucking Gabriel Gonzaga versus Mirko Krokop level head kick. It also had shades of Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman. I mean, it was just a super incredible, brutal head kick. Yeah, I was screaming in my living room at 5 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, so super impressive performance for Quillan Salkeld. Especially for a guy that he was facing in Haqparast, who has only really lost to guys in the top 15, Bobby Green, Dan Hooker, guys like that. And, in the post-fight interview, Quillan Salkeld did call out for a top 15 opponent. I don't think he's quite ready for that yet, but I do think a great matchup for him would be Mason Jones, who's just coming off a win at UFC Paris over Balaji Oki. Jones is a super tough guy. I don't think he will be able to put away Jones. I could be completely wrong. I think is a tough matchup. We have seen Salkeld struggle slightly with more aggressive guys, more aggressive strikers. In his last fight against Yanal Ashmouz, he kind of got pieced up a little bit in the third round. Yeah, and Jones is well on his way to the top 15 as well, especially if he beats a prospect like Salkeld. I think a lot of people could say that's a bit of a prospect-killing matchup, especially because Salkeld is super high right now in the eyes of most fans, especially with a stunning head kick knockout like that. But yeah, I just think if he wants to break in the top 15, he's going to have to take super tough fights like this. And I don't think he's quite ready. I mean, he's only 25, so I don't think he's quite ready for a top 15 opponent yet. But if he beats Jones, then by all means, 100% put this guy against a top 15 opponent, maybe a Grant Dawson or maybe an Ignacio Bahamondes. I could see them booking him against Bahamondes. I think that would be a great matchup too, but I just don't think he's quite ready for that yet. Maybe if he wins his next fight against Mason Jones. So yeah, Quillen Salkil, Mason Jones, book it now. On to the main card. We've got Alexander Rakic versus Azamat Murzakanov. Well, Alexander Rakic, yeah, he really let me down this fight. I mean, I was picking Murzakanov to win by TKO in the second round, but I just thought Rakic was going to do a bit better than that. He seemed to have changed camps. He looked in incredible shape, but I don't understand his game plan. Like he's taking down a guy that's like, you know, what 7 inches shorter than him. He's kind of closing the distance. He wasn't really using his range that well. He obviously started off good, blasting a few body kicks, using his length well, but not well enough because then he went for a takedown. And there was quite a funny moment when he had Murzakanov up against the fence, where Murzakanov kind of looks up at the crowd, like almost as if to say, "Is this fucking guy really just trying to take me down? Like, what's going on here?" So I thought that was quite funny. Yeah, and then they break off. There's a bit of action back and forth. Rakic rushes in for a takedown against a guy who he has a 7-inch reach advantage against, and he gets KO'd out cold with a jab. So yeah, I'm really not sure what Rakic's game plan was there. Bit of a disappointing performance. I thought he would do a lot better, despite the fact I did think he was going to lose. But yeah, again, disappointing performance from Rakic. And I think he should fight Dominic Reyes next. They're both coming off KO losses, both ranked in that lower half of the top 10. I think Rakic will be number 8, and Reyes is probably 7 or 6 at this point. So yeah, I think Rakic should fight Reyes. I think it's a good matchup. And as for Azamat Murzakanov, yeah, super impressive win. He is truly the dark horse of the light heavyweight division at this point. Um, yeah, I believe he's probably, I haven't checked the rankings yet, but I believe he's ranked number 6 or 5 now. And I think a great matchup for him would be Khalil Roundtree. Obviously, Roundtree just coming off that brutal KO loss to Yuri, so he will have a few months off at least to recover. But I don't think Murzakanov is one of those guys who's itching to get back in the octagon as soon as possible. I mean, they call him the professional for a reason. I think he prepares well for his opponents. He has a good game plan. He takes his time to prepare. Obviously, he's not the most active guy. He fights maximum twice a year. So I don't think he'll mind waiting for a higher ranked opponent like Khalil Roundtree. And I just think it'd be a fucking banger matchup. Both guys super technical on the feet. I think I could be mistaken, but I believe they're both southpaws. I mean, I know Mirzakanov's a southpaw, but actually, no, I don't think Roundtree's a southpaw. But regardless, this would be a banger matchup. Both super technical strikers, shorter guys for the light heavyweight division with a bunch of power in their hands. Yeah, I just think it'd be a banger matchup. So yeah, they should book Azamat Murzakanov versus Khalil Roundtree Jr. Now, this fight, Alexander Volkov versus Jailton Almeida. This is a prime example of damage over control. If you look at the stats here, let's look at the stats. Obviously, Volkov gets a split decision win, but look at this 7 of 9 takedowns for Almeida, but Volkov 123 strikes to 27. And look at the accuracy 95%. Significant strikes 24 to 9. But if you look at the way that the fight played out, he was in bottom a lot. Volkov was in bottom a lot, but he landed elbows. He was landing punches from bottom. He got taken down a bunch. He definitely won the first round, I think, quite clearly. Obviously, if you look at this, he defended a takedown. He landed 100% accuracy on his strikes, 38 to 1. Obviously, clear 10-9 round for Volkov. But then in round 2 and 3, Almeida was able to get quite a few takedowns in control time. But yeah, it really just wasn't enough to get the job done. I was super happy that Volkov won. I think a lot of people would be saying it's a robbery. But again, I just think the judges and the refs did really well, like in this card. Obviously they had the point deduction with Maxim and Raposo. They took it straight away. Um, and yeah, this fight just showed that they were on their shit at that night. I don't know if it's just Abu Dhabi or they're paying them more or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, I was really happy with this result. I was worried that they were going to give it to Almeida just based on control time, which they always fucking do. They always do that shit. But yeah, damage over control. That is the main theme of this fight. And the unfortunate thing for Volkov is that he's not getting a title fight next. And it's not necessarily that that was a close fight, and some people said that he lost. It's because of the fucking main event, which I'm going to get to. And I was kind of stewing over this for a few days. I was meant to upload this video yesterday, but Volkov was one of the reasons why it took me a bit longer to kind of figure out who the fuck, like, who do you give Volkov? Like, he's beaten Pavlovich. You can't give him Pavlovich. Obviously, Almeida's top five as well. He just beat Almeida. Can't give him Gan. Can't give him Aspinall. But he's a number two ranked guy in the world, and he's just won his fight, so he's in a bit of a difficult situation. Um, but I think you should just give him Curtis Blades. I mean, I was really debating whether or not to do that, seeing as Curtis Blades, came off a super close decision that a lot of people were saying was a robbery, and could definitely see why you would have given the Blades' last fight to the Russian gentleman who I am forgetting the name of, um, Rizvan Kuniev, excuse me. But yeah, like, yeah, Volkov is the only, excuse me, Blades is the only other guy that Volkov hasn't fought in the top five, and I'm sure he wants to stay active. And yeah, I mean, I just think Blades had not a very impressive performance against a guy who was ranked like number 14 or number 15, and it was his first fight in the UFC. Maybe Rizvan Kuniev was just super good, but yeah. Um, Unfortunately, yeah, Volkov will not be getting the title shot, and he'll have to fight Curtis Blades, in my opinion. So yeah, fuck it now. Jailton Almeida, obviously disappointing loss with him. I do think that he needs to change his style up a little bit if he's gonna, get into this upper echelon of the heavyweight division. Yeah, he just did no damage on the ground. He had great takedowns, great control time, but yeah, he just didn't land any strikes. I believe they got stood up at one point in round three, maybe, and then Almeida immediately took him down again and did fucking nothing with it. So yeah, disappointing loss for Almeida. And I think a decent matchup, obviously he's going to have a step down in competition. I think a good matchup for Almeida would be Ante De Liha. I was thinking about Sergey Pavlovich, but I was like, he doesn't really deserve that. I mean, I know Sergey Pavlovich is coming off the loss to um, or did he just? I think he's coming off a win. Actually, excuse me. He's coming off the win to Rosenstrike earlier this year. But he's been out for a while. I don't know. I just feel like Almeida doesn't really deserve Pavlovich. And I think he'd probably get knocked out. So yeah, I think Almeida should fight Ante De Liha. Ante De Liha is just coming off his impressive debut win against Marcin Tybura, who is a top 10 level guy, and he fucking smoked him in like 2 minutes. He just destroyed him, slept him out cold. So I do think De Liha does deserve a step up in competition. And I think that competition will be Almeida. I mean, he's a super aggressive striker. I do think he could potentially knock out Almeida, but obviously it's a classic striker versus grappler matchup, and Almeida definitely has the ability to win, especially if he opens up a bit more on the ground over De Liha. Obviously, Ante De Liha, main training part of Tom Aspinall. And yeah, I just think that would be a good matchup, a good step up in competition for De Liha and a step down for Almeida. Ante De Liha, Jailton Almeida. Put it in, I don't know, maybe a London fight night next year or something like that. Yeah. And the featured fight of the night, we had Umar Nurmagomedov, brother. Smash this guy, brother. Versus Mario Batista. Yeah, I think this fight played out a lot differently than a lot of people were expecting. Yeah, first round, Magomedov gets a takedown, and Batista locks up this super tight foot lock, which is a super rare submission we don't really see a lot in MMA. And it was getting quite tight, but Nurmagomedov did a good job to spin and roll with it and get out of the submission, just showing his skill on the ground. And then in the start of the second round, I believe, let me just double check this. I believe it was the start of the second round. Yeah, start of the second round, Batista lands this nasty knee right up the middle as Umar's shooting and knocks him down, hurts him, and he's on the ground pounding away, almost gets a finish over Umar, which I thought was super impressive. Yeah, and then the third round, I think, was just Umar establishing his takedown dominance. Took him down 7 out of 9 times, and Batista just couldn't do much to get back up. He did get up a few times, but then Umar was just too dominant in the wrestling department. But yeah, super strong showing for Batista um, against a guy who a lot of people are saying is the only guy to beat Merab, and I do still agree with that sentiment. But yeah, Batista had a super good showing. But the judges gave it 30-27, which I just think it's just bullshit. Abu Dhabi judging. Oh my God, it's a Muslim Russian guy. He's related to Khabib. Oh my God, let's he wins 30-27, which I thought was bullshit. I thought it was a 29-28. I thought you could have even maybe given the first round was competitive. I think Umar won it, but some judges maybe could give the first round to Batista as well. But he definitely won the second round. I mean, he scored a knockdown, landed more damage. He was able to get up from the takedowns. Yeah, the judging on this fight wasn't the best, but regardless, Umar definitely still did win. And yeah, I think we all know who Umar should fight next. The winner of Yan versus Merab. Um, you know, Obviously that fight he had with Merab was pretty close, and I'm not super excited to see that again because I think Merab will still win. But it's an interesting fight, and Merab's looking to stay active. He's left the division almost at this point. But I do think if Jan wins, then 100% they should book Umar versus Jan. I think that would be a super interesting fight. But yeah, Umar versus the winner of Merab versus Jan in December. Book it whenever that happens. Mario Batista. He's got a few options. I was thinking Ayman Zahabi, but I just don't think that they would book that. Um, I think he should fight Davison Figueiredo next. Obviously, he had a great showing against Umar, and I think he deserves a guy who is, a bit higher ranked than him, if not similarly ranked. Um, Obviously, Figueiredo just coming off that good win against Montel Jackson Rio. He's a veteran, he's got good grappling on the ground, decent striking. I think it'll be a good matchup for Batista. And honestly, despite the fact that Figueiredo is a talented guy, he's 37, and I do think that's Batista's fight to lose. But yeah, I think it'll be a fairly exciting matchup, and another feather in the cap of Batista, a bit of a bounce back for him, even though Figueiredo's tough. But I think it'd be a good fight. So yeah, Mario Batista versus Davison Figueiredo. Mackenzie Dern gets the win over Werner Jandiroba. I didn't watch too much of this fight, but I do know that this was similar to the Volkov Almeida fight, where Jandiroba landed a lot of takedowns, but Dern was just a lot more aggressive off her back. She's landed elbows. She was out striking her on the feet. Let's just look at these stats here. She landed more strikes. Jandiroba 9 out of 17 takedowns, which is pretty impressive against a grappler like Dern, but she just wasn't aggressive enough on the ground. And yeah, she kind of got pieced up on the feet. I didn't watch most of this fight, but yeah, I was happy with the decision. Mackenzie Dern is a UFC champion, which is pretty crazy to say. I do think she is obviously very promotable. But yeah, obviously she called out Tatiana Suarez, so yeah, she's the champion. She gets to decide who the next contender is. Obviously, Tatiana Suarez is coming off that loss to Wei Li, albeit it was quite dominant. I do think that Dern wouldn't want to wait for the winner of Wei Li. The thing is, if Wei Li loses, she is probably going to come back down. Excuse me, if she loses against Valentina, she is going to come back down to 115. I think that's pretty likely. Because that's just who she is. She's a champion. She wants championship fights, and if she's not going to win the belt at 125, I do think she'll come back down, and then maybe Dern could fight her down the road and get smoked. But yeah, I think Dern. She called out Tatiana Suarez. Book it. Simple as that. Dern, Tatiana Suarez. Sometime next year, maybe a March or April card, co-main event of a pay-per-view. Yeah, and for Vina Jandiroba, I don't really know. I don't really give a shit, to be honest. Didn't have the best performance. No disrespect to her. She is the number one contender in the strawweight division. Yeah, I don't know, dude. Just give her the winner of like I don't know, Yasmin Lucindo versus Julian Robertson or something. I don't even know. Is that even a 115 fight? I don't even know, dude. No disrespect to gender over, or give her fucking I don't know. Yeah, just give her someone in the top 10. I'm not too bothered by that. Main event. Obviously, we all know what happened here. Super disappointing result. Tom Aspinall gets poked in the eye at 4 minutes 35 seconds of round number one. Obviously, they're going to rematch these two guys, so I don't need to match up these guys. Yeah, and I just wanna like address all the controversy that's going on and give my opinion on this. A lot of people are saying, obviously, the main narrative is, Tom Aspinall's a pussy. Tom Aspinall quit. He was getting pieced up. He had a bloody nose, and he decided to cop out. And there's been a lot of examples comparing other guys in fights that continued and went on to either win or lose the fight. Like a lot of people are bringing up the Daniel Cormier argument, like, oh, Daniel Cormier got poked in the eye and he continued, but he lost the fight. He lost the fight, and he wasn't the champion at the time. He was trying to get the belt back, and then he retired. And then a lot of people were talking about the Verdum fight versus Travis Brown, like, oh, Verdum got poked badly in the eye against Travis Brown, and he still went on to win the fight. Yeah, but he was already winning. He was already winning the fight, and then he got poked in the eye. You know, like, and I can bring up an example of my own. Like the Adesanya versus Imavov fight is a perfect example for me. Like Adesanya gets poked in the eye. The referee asks, "Are you okay?" He's clearly compromised. He says, "Yeah, I'm good." 20 seconds later, he gets knocked out. Like, there's so many different circumstances you can bring up. And for people to say that Tom Aspinall is a pussy, he quit, whatever, that's fine, that's your opinion, but I just think that's a fucking stupid narrative. I think he was totally within his right to say he can't continue. He said he can't see. I can't fucking see. Why are you fucking booing? I can't fucking see. I thought that was quite good to see Tom a bit fired up, potentially playing the heel a little bit. We all know him as a nice guy, but that was quite interesting to see him acting that way. I can't fucking see. Why are you fucking booing? Um, but yeah, for the notion that he quit and he's a pussy and he wanted a way out because he had a bloody nose, it's like, just look at the stats. People acting like he was getting fucking dominated. Look at the stats: 27 strikes to 30. Obviously, Garn did suffer takedown, which I thought was quite impressive. Like it was a very close fight, and Garn landed some good shots. Aspinall landed some good shots. It's not like Aspinall was getting beat up and he decided to look for a way out just because he had a bloody nose. Yeah, I just think there's a lot of fucking casual fans who are kind of almost trying to convince themselves that Aspinall is a pussy and quit. And the main reason that people are doing that, I think, is because they expected him to destroy Garn in the first round, worse than John Jones potentially, and I think that's why a lot of people are reacting like this. But Aspinall's the champion. He is totally fucking within his right to say he can't continue, and he's still the champion, and they're going to rebook the fight. But I do think that there should have been at least a point deduction, if not a disqualification. Like, he was warned twice before this. There's also a shot. I was listening to the Ariel Helwani show, and he brought up an interesting point which I wasn't aware of. When Aspinall shot for the takedown, a lot of people missed this, but Gunn stuck his fingers in his eye then. So, he's done it multiple times in the round. He should have had a point taken off. And yeah, it's just obviously a really disappointing result. But the fact that Garn just instantly gets into a world title fight again with no punishment whatsoever, I think is a bit of a travesty of the sport, to be honest. I do think he should have been disqualified or maybe had a point taken away. And yeah, Garn is just I just really am not a fan of Garn. Like, with all due respect, he's a talented fighter, but I saw a post on Twitter. Someone said they went back from every fight, every single fight in the UFC that Garn has had, he has fouled someone and been warned for it. Um, and obviously the fight against Junior Dos Santos, elbows in the back of the head, finishes him. Sergey Spivak punches in the back of the head. Fight against John Jones, kicks him in the balls 9 seconds into the fight. Like, he's just a dirty fighter. And to say that it was unintentional, like, I think it's your choice whether or not you're gonna close or open your hands. Like, we heard Jim Miller weigh in on this. It's like he has fought in the UFC 46 times and he hasn't poked anyone in the eye once because he knows how to close his hands. It's his responsibility. So yeah, I think it's just the way that Gunn fights. Intentional, unintentional, he's just a dirty fighter. He fouls a lot, and I hope fucking Tom Aspinall smokes him in the rematch, which I do think will happen. And yeah, without anything else to say, I will be wrapping this video up now. Thank you guys for watching. That is my full card reaction and yeah, matchups for the next fights for all of these guys, most of them at least on this card. Yeah, apologies for this being late. I was trying to upload it yesterday, but I had a few technical difficulties. But yeah, without anything else to say, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you on Friday for UFC Fight Night Garcia versus Onama breakdown and predictions. Goodbye.